Hey guys, alright, so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little theory. I know that this stuff, learning about this stuff was really helpful for me when I was doing pieces and getting the colors right. So I'm going to try to give you a brief, very low-level introduction to color theory. What you're looking at here is called a color wheel. And we'll get into how to use this in a minute, but I want to give you a little bit of information about color theory in general. Color theory was actually introduced in the 15th century. Da Vinci actually talks a little bit about it in some of his notebooks. It was more formalized in the 18th century with Isaac Newton's book Optics. And then from then on it has been more and more formalized into what modern color theory is. There's two types of color. Color theory. There's additive color theory, which is the mixing of light, and there's subtractive color theory, which is the mixing of paint or pigments. So what we are dealing with is subtractive color theory. Additive color theory is what you see on computers. It's the RGB, red, green, blue color mixing. That's not what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about subtractive color theory, which is red, yellow, blue color mixing. The difference between those basically is with additive color mixing, when you mix all the colors you get white. With subtractive color mixing, when you mix all the colors, you get black. They also have a different primary color in them, but we're not going to get real deep into that. So just know that what we're talking about is subtractive color theory. All colors have three parts. There is lightness, which is how light or dark is it? There is saturation, which is it intense or dull? And there is hue, which is what a lot of people actually call color, which is red, orange, yellow, green, purple, but that's technically hue. That's not color. Color is all three of those parts together. So we're going to talk about the color wheel now. Now in subtractive color, you have three primary colors. You have red, you have yellow, and you have blue. You'll notice on the color wheel they make a triangle. These are called your primary colors. Everything else on the color wheel is mixed from those primary colors and black or white. This is a very, very simple color wheel. There are much more sophisticated subtractive color wheels. You can look them up on the internet. What you'll see is that they're black in the middle, and they're actually go from darker colors out to lighter colors. And we'll talk about how to use that in a minute. You have secondary colors, which are purple, orange, and green. They are made by mixing equal amounts of the primary colors. And then you have the tertiary colors, which is all the stuff in between those. They're made from mixing the secondary colors. So those are the primary parts of a basic color wheel. Now, there are some general color schemes that a lot of people use when painting. I'll talk about the three most common color schemes. There are a number of others, but we're just going to concentrate on the three most common for now. One of them is called complementary colors. Those are opposites, so if they're across from each other on the color wheel, they're complementary colors. Red and green, purple and yellow, blue and orange, blue and orange. So that's actually used for accents. You don't want to use a lot of that. If you're doing an army or something like that, you don't want to have half the color green and half the color red. That would be too stark. What you do is if you have a basically green army, use a little bit of red here and there to accent and highlight things. Another kind of common scheme is called analogous. That's where you pick three colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And what you do is you pick one of them as the dominant color. So let's say I had this light green is my dominant color for my army. Then I would pick one of these other two colors as a support color. So I would have, let's say, less of this dark green. And then I would pick the other one as an accent color. So I would use the yellow to accent. So I'd have the least of yellow in my army colors. Another common color scheme is called triadic, which is, it makes a triangle. So it's evenly spaced like this. Okay. What you'll do with that generally is one of these will be a dominant color. So let's say I want blue to be my dominant color. The other two will be used less, but just about equally to each other as accent colors. So most of my army would be blue, and I'd use purplish red and a yellow orange as accent colors throughout my army. When you're mixing colors, a lot of people, especially when they start painting, will actually say, okay, I have red, I want a dark red, so let's add some black. Or I have orange and I want to make it a dark orange, or a light orange, so let's add some white. Well, generally that's not really what you want to do. What you generally really want to do is, if you have orange and you want to make it lighter orange, add yellow. So you basically move around the wheel if you're trying to move a color towards another color, lighter or darker. Now, that's not to say you can't lighten up colors with white or black, but what you're essentially going to do is you're not changing the hue of the color by moving it around the wheel. You're changing the lightness of the color and sometimes the saturation by adding white and black. Alright, so what I've got here are some dabs of the primary colors, blue, red, and yellow. And we're going to experiment a little bit with some mixing, and I'll show you some of the things I was talking about on the color wheel. So, if I take primary colors, let's say I take some red, and I take some yellow in about equal parts, and I mix them together, then I will get orange. Now this is going to be not exactly easy to see on camera, because the colors aren't going to be exact through the camera, but you can kind of see, if I can clean this off. Okay, there's some red. Here's some yellow. Alright, so you can kind of see that I've got orange in the middle there. Basic color mixing. I mean, this is not rocket science. But what I was talking about changing the hue, now I could take some white and add it to this orange and change the lightness. I could take some black and add it to this orange and change the lightness. If I want to make it a lighter orange, what I really want to do, though, is add more yellow to it. That will actually make it a lighter orange. Okay. Now, if I want to make it a darker orange, I take some red and add that to it. And that'll make a darker orange. So be aware of what you're trying to do with your colors. Neutrals are essentially black, white, and all the shades of gray. That basically means they're not sitting on the color wheel. And so obviously you take the black and white to make all your shades of gray. It works basically the same. You want darker gray, add more black. You want lighter gray, add more white. Okay guys, a word of warning. You can print up a basic color wheel like this off the internet. You'll find them. But if you go to pick up a color wheel, and you can get them for, you know, $3, $4, $8, depending on where you are and how extravagant you want your color wheel. Make sure that you're picking up an artist's color wheel and that it's used for subtractive color. Make sure you don't get an additive color wheel or a printer's color wheel. Now, if you go to an art supply store or order off the internet from Art Supply or go to a hobby shop, most of the color wheels you're going to find will be the ones you need. But just make sure when you're buying that you know what you're getting and that you get the right color wheel. So when you're going to plan an army, if you're new to painting, here's a suggestion. Pick your favorite color on the color wheel and pick either 2 colors to the right, 2 colors to the left, or a color on either side, and use those 3 colors in your army. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. With 500 years of learning on color theory, I'm certainly not going to tell you much of it in 5 or 10 minutes. What I would encourage you to do is to put color theory into Google and have a look around. There's a lot more to it. There's tints, there's shades, there's warm and cool colors, there's the different effects that different colors have on human psychology. It's a very deep and interesting field, and the more you understand about it, the better balanced you can make your pieces. So thanks for hanging in there with me, and we'll see you next time.